I'm Bill Thompson, and what I brought in today was two 1851 Colt naval revolvers. I was in the military and I'm retired, and so basically I do a lot of reenacting. I'm with the Atlantic Canadian Military History Association, and we do reenacting mainly between the Korean War and the Second World War. I got them through a friend who knew that I collected military antiques and particularly firearms as well.
Colt is one of the world's most famous manufacturers of firearms. Founded by Samuel Colt, the brand, which is inextricably linked with the American Wild West, is now owned by a Czech holding company. Attempting to expand into Britain, Colt opened a factory in London in 1853. It didn't do well and closed 3 years later. One of the few orders it filled included around 800 so-called Navy pistols the British Army provided to militias in Canada. The guns were dubbed Navy pistols because the cylinder was inscribed with the scene of a Navy battle fought by the Americans in the Mexican War. Famous users of the Navy Colt included gunfighters Wild Bill Hickok, Buffalo Bill Cody, and Doc Holliday.
We have Bill Thompson here today. Welcome, Bill. I'd like to thank you very much for bringing these marvelous items in, because they're quite a rare gun. You know, Upper Canada Colts and Lower Canada Colts, there's just not many left, and the original ones and correct ones are very hard to find. Now, they were issued with, when they came with a holster and a belt and a bullet pouch like this and a sword, an 1853 pattern cavalry sword. The interesting thing with these, Bill, there was a period of time in the 1850s, these were quite a brand new innovation because they were 6-shot. Most guns at the time were single shot, had a load from the muzzle with a ramrod, and then were slow and of course limited. These here, they'll carry 6 bullets, and the way you would load them, you put the gun in half cock so the cylinder rotates freely. So you would take a charge from a flask, like this is a Colt flask, got a pre-measured spout on it. You just put that, let it go, and you got a full charge in there. Then you would pour it in the cylinder like that, and then when that's done, you would take a ball, like this lead ball, place it on the cylinder like that. Wouldn't load that because it'd be jammed in there. And then you rotate it underneath the rammer, and you pull the rammer back, line up a thing, and then just ram it in like that. It would peel a ring of lead off that ball, so it helps seal the thing. Now, the smart thing to do after that would like grease of some sort over to seal it so it wouldn't crossfire, because if you get a chain fire on these things, because black powder was highly inflammable, it could explode, you know, a couple more cylinders, which would be an unpleasant experience. Now, a lot of these things were faked over the years, and so some enterprising individuals years ago bought up a bunch of these guns in the cylinder range that were commercial ones, then stamped them, made up the stamps, but they never duplicated an ordnance inspector stamp, which you'll find in the inside curve of the grip.
They were looking at a specific thing, and it was like to find out if it was a forgery or not. Because believe it or not, I mean, the world is the world. People forge these things, and it turned out to be the real deal. This little tiny stamp on the handle on the wood is what kind of sealed the deal. So would these be among the first firearms purchased by the government in response to the Militia Act? Okay, so, and all, just cavalry troops had these? Or
okay. Yeah, cavalry would carry them. Up until the mid-1850s, you know, Canada was, of course, a British colony and relied on British troops, the British military to protect them. Then when you had the Crimean War break out in 1854, the British wanted to sort of make Canada more responsible for their own defense, so they said, please get this done. There's only about 1,000 troops in Canada back at that time, so they formed a much larger thing, and these guns here were issued to mounted cavalry for Upper and Lower Canada, Quebec and Ontario. Now, the biggest threat they had during the course of the time was the Fenian raids. They made numbered raids across the border right up until 1875 was the last one, I think, if I recall correctly. The Fenians were a group of Irish fighting for independence of Ireland. And their plan was to invade Canada, take it over, and then hold it hostage and trade it back to Britain for Ireland, free Ireland. So Britain say, okay, you can have Ireland independent and we have Canada back. That was their whole plan. And they made a number of sorties into Canada, and there was a number of skirmishes and fights where, you know, people were killed. But the Fenians never had much success, you know, in this whole endeavor.
The British were very proud when it came to their firearms and making the firearms. Like, how would like a U.S. type firearm possibly make it in?
Because London, like Sam Colt built a factory in London, so he produced the guns in London, so that made them an English-made gun in terms of competitions and everything else.
Oh.
And that was a marketing thing on the part of Sam Colt. But the London office never stayed open that long.
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was ironic, you know, because the reason why they acquired these and who they got them from was a U.S. company, but the reason why they needed them was because of the U.S. Kind of like...
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, the politics of the time can be convoluted, yeah. Well, Bill, what are you planning on doing with them?
I plan to properly display them. Up until now, I had them sitting in a case, but I like to have them out where people can see them.
I'd like to thank you again for bringing these wonderful pieces in, and it was great meeting you and great seeing these guns. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the information.
They were used for the defense of Canada with, you know, the Fenian raids and other items at the border. But they are a significant historical piece of militaria, and they're quite rare, and it's great to see them. And a lot of people wouldn't have an idea what they were until they saw them, so it might just broaden their knowledge.